I'm Kevin Tidwell at the 2007 SEMA show at the APS booth with David. David, tell me about the latest product that you have for Corvette owners.
Well, what we've got here is basically the latest state-of-the-art twin-turbo system using ball-bearing turbochargers for basically America's most current state-of-the-art motor vehicle, the C6 Z06 Corvette. What we've tried to do here is, in fact, come up with a package which will cope with various demands of the customer, ranging from some 200-odd horsepower increase over a stock engine from 440 to 650, all the way up to around 1100 when the engine has been fully prepared for that. So it's a very broad range of capabilities to suit a very state-of-the-art motor vehicle.
All right, let's follow this so everyone can see what the system consists of. Let's start with the intake.
Sure, here we're looking at the right-hand side, air cleaner entry. It's in fact following down through the inner fender through a cast aluminum adapter into the compressor entry of the turbocharger. This is where we compress the air to some 6 psi on a stock standard motor vehicle, or upwards of 20 on a fully built motor vehicle. The air exits here, goes down through the suspension and under the front cross member, comes around past the blow-off valves, which are there for deceleration boost control, only deceleration, not full acceleration, into the bottom of the intercooler. The air passes through the right-hand side intercooler, where of course there's a pair on the other side for the left-hand side intercooler, up through this adapter ahead of the stock MAF, where in fact it's mounted in the side, and into the throttle body and the intake plenum of the engine. Having entered the intake plenum, the exhaust gas leaves the cylinder head of the engine, runs down through these custom cast iron exhaust manifolds and into the turbine housing of the turbocharger. This is where the power is generated. This is the drive side of the turbocharger, and this is where the drive is created to power the compressor we discussed earlier. Once that drive energy has been extracted from the exhaust gas leaves the turbine housing into these 3-inch pipes and exits to the rear of the car. However, we need a control mechanism, because if we didn't have a control, the turbocharger would run uncontrolled, develop uncontrolled boost, and potentially damage both itself and eventually the engine. So we have a bypass. This bypass pipe comes out of the turbine housing and enters this valve, which is in fact commonly called a wastegate. This wastegate here has a valve inside it. It's operated by manifold pressure, and in fact it's opened in response to a signal from the intake manifold. It opens and closes, modulating the amount of exhaust gas which can bypass the valve, and bypassing the valve, entering the exhaust after the turbocharger. This controls the speed of the turbocharger and therefore the output. This is the fundamental controlling device for the whole system. The exhaust gas then leaves, passes down through the 3-inch exhaust system into the custom-built, very high flow capacity rear mufflers.
All right, these rear mufflers that APS has designed are quite unique because you told me earlier the stock Corvette ones have an intricate butterfly design.
They do. The standard Corvette mufflers were designed with the sound or the aural note of the muffler as its primary consideration. It's very sophisticated. It has baffles in it. It has movable butterflies, all of which were designed with a fundamental objective of making the Corvette sound nice. Unfortunately, in doing this, Corvette came up with a very restrictive muffler design. And we found that as the power levels increased, we just could not get sufficient gas flow through the stock mufflers, to the extent that even going from the 440 horsepower at the wheels of the stock vehicle to the 650 that our kit makes on a completely standard engine, there was 50 horsepower in just coming up with these standard replacing the standard mufflers with these mufflers we're using here. So the mufflers are a very critical part of the overall performance of the finished package. This difference becomes greater the greater the power level. So by the time you're at 800 or 900 horsepower, there can be 100 horsepower's difference in the mufflers design versus the standard C6 Z06 muffler.
All right, this setup produces an incredible amount of power that requires more fuel.
Indeed it does. Without the fuel, of course, you could never make the increased power. So we've designed a completely custom fuel sender unit. This is what this is here. It goes into the stock fuel tank, has 2 fuel pumps, 2 very high flow capacity fuel pumps with 2 fuel lines, all custom wiring, and it has 2 fuel discharge lines, These two fuel lines run all the way from the tank at the back of the car up to the engine, and they connect into the engine at the rear of these custom-built fuel rails. These fuel rails have 5/8 ID diameter instead of the stock 5/16 of an inch, and they feed custom very high flow capacity fuel injectors. The fuel between the two rails is balanced by this balance tube at the front, and this discharge round here runs around to the fuel pressure regulator. The whole system has in total 2.5 times the flow capacity of the stock fuel system.
And you were saying earlier that the turbochargers actually are not at full capacity, there's still more range?
Indeed there are. At the standard capacity at 650 horsepower on the stock engine is only about a half the total capacity of the turbocharger. The capacity of the turbocharger is to go out to around it's 700 each, so they'll make about 1,400 flywheel horsepower in total, but at the wheels you'd be looking at around 1,050 to 1,100 with both turbochargers running flat out. The system, the intercooler sizing, the exhaust sizing, the muffler sizing, the fuel system sizing has all been done to enable a person to install this on a stock standard motor vehicle at the beginning, then when in fact he wishes to improve its performance later, to have a custom forged long built engine put under it. The turbocharger system will still be fine. He won't have to change anything except change the calibration of the control wastegates.
Now, how much can a Corvette owner expect to pay for a complete setup like this?
The turbocharger system as we supply it, you're looking at $14,000 plus install, which is about a week's work. If you're looking at a built engine, then a guy has to talk to his engine builder. That's a completely separate deal. But on a stock engine, as I say, you'll take the power at the wheels from about 440 horsepower to about 650, 660, which is nominally a 50% increase. And as I say, with the potential to go a great deal further as the person's interest and budget and so forth allows in the future.
And is there a website that someone can visit to learn more about this system?
Yes, there is. Probably the easiest is to go to www.airpowersystems.com.au. There, if they click on the US flag on the homepage, they'll come up with a full list of US dealers arranged by state.
All right, David, thank you very much.